We have huge breaking news today out of the White House. Marco Rubio and the Trump administration have announced they are pulling visas from 75 countries. Essentially, what they've done here is they've gone and looked at countries which, when the immigrants come over, they generally cost the U.S. taxpayer more than they contribute. And they've said, no more, you are not coming in anymore. I'm going to play the clip for you in just a second of Marco Rubio talking about the strategy, and then we're going to get into it. Before we do that, though, if you are new here, please subscribe down below. Really, really appreciate it. All right, here's the clip. I think the logic here, for me at least, makes sense, but I'd love to know what you guys think. Here's the clip.
Our visa system, okay, who you allow to visit your country should reflect the national interest. We said that from the very beginning. It was one of the directives that we got from the president. It's one of the things he ran on. And so our visa process basically is, and there are some times we'll deny people visas because of activities they've undertaken overseas. Other times it's people that have visas but are in the United States doing things that run counter to our national interest. And the law gives us the right, and in fact, I would argue the obligation to remove people like that from our country. And we're going to continue to do it. I mean, it's as simple as that. I mean, sometimes somebody comes in and says, oh, I want to come in as a student. They're here as a student, and then once they're here, they're involved in nefarious activity. We're going to remove them from the country. But then maybe they're here as a researcher. Maybe they're here as, I don't want to say journalist because you guys will get upset, but, you know, it could be anything. You know, these are visitors to the country. A visa is a visitor. It's not a right. By the way, we deny visas every day all over the world. People will go to an embassy, they'll sit for an interview, and the consular officer will deny them a visa because of something that came up in their record, because of something that came up in their interview, whatever it may be. So if you have the power to deny someone a visa before they get one, you most certainly have the power to revoke it once they get one and then do something they shouldn't be doing. So there's a variety of reasons why visas are denied, but all of them are because it implicates our national interest or national security in some way.
This makes so much sense. Why isn't this the way it's always worked? You can generate mathematical models where you can say, if this person is from this country and maybe even plug in a bunch of other factors, they'll be a net negative to the country in terms of, immigrating here, in terms of taking benefits. And if this person immigrates, they'll be a net positive. It makes perfect sense to me that at least on an economic level, we import the people that contribute tons of money to us, and we don't allow the people that just drain from the economy. I mean, I covered this the other day, and this is one of the craziest stories I've ever covered. But I covered this the other day, where there is essentially, as part of the Minnesota fraud ring, there was $700 million in the last 2 years found in cash being transported through TSA. Now, that is a pure negative for our economy. Even if that money was earned legally, which it probably wasn't, it was probably a result of fraud, but even if it wasn't a result of fraud, that is still insane. That is still unjustifiable. Because essentially what's happening is you are taking $700 million out of the U.S. economy and bringing it to a foreign nation. And none of this should be allowed. And the Trump administration is finally doing something about this. This is common sense. It is common sense. It is obvious. I don't think anyone reasonable can disagree with this. Scott Besson, by the way, has a solution to that previous problem, right? There's essentially two problems, right? The first one's the benefit problem, where people come over and they get put on benefits. By the way, that's worse, way worse in Europe than here. So if you want to look at how bad it can get, go take a look at Europe, right? I think the average asylum seeker there costs the UK taxpayer £42,000, which is like $55,000 a year to maintain. So we're not as bad as they are, but we are still heading down that road. But Scott Besson has a solution to the extradition of the money problem that we've had. Not only just this fraud scandal, but I think it's like $1.7 billion just with Somalia being taken from the U.S. and given to the Somalia. I'll play the clip for you in just a second, but I want you to realize how significant this is for those countries. This represents, as part of their economy, at least in the case of Somalia, this is an estimate I saw, about 45% of their real economy. It's about 15% of their GDP, but in terms of their real economy, because the GDP numbers are kind of fluffed up, in terms of their real economy, about 45% of its remittances. That's like half of the productive capacity of the country is people going to a different country and taking money and bringing it in. Absolutely insane. But Scott Besson has a plan, right? And I think actually you can say what you want. Again, I'm sorry, I'll play the clip for you in just a second. But I think actually you can say what you want, but the Trump administration is doing a good job and they are aware of these sorts of issues. And honestly, I think they're doing really well. Anyway, here's the clip from Scott Besson talking about how to deal with it.
Right. So we're lowering that to 3,000.
Oh, good.
And we're also targeting the 2 counties here. And we're going to do enhanced surveillance. And from now on, anyone who wires money out from one of these money service businesses has to check a box saying whether they are on public assistance. And if you are on public assistance, we are going to start pushing that you cannot wire money out of the country.
Oh, gosh. Well, what if they lie and they don't tell us for public assistance?
Well, then
That's a crime, lying on a federal form.
We're going to follow it up. and we are going to push that you can no longer do that. The American people, our generosity has been taken advantage of.
Our generosity is funding al-Shabaab, an Iranian interest it could be.
Well, the money.
I mean, this is really bad.
The money is supposed to go for alleged asylum seekers and their families and children. And if you are wiring the money out of the country, one of two things must be true. You are getting too much money and your benefits should be cut, or you are part of this conspiracy. Where did that money come from? We're going to find it out.
This is absolutely right. Why were you allowed to do this in the first place? If you're on welfare, if you're, let's say, a legal or illegal immigrant on welfare, why are you allowed to just take that money and send it to another country? If you're doing that, there is something seriously wrong. You shouldn't, if you're on any kind of government benefit, you should not be able to send that money out of the country. It is literally just the US taxpayer enriching another country at our expense. Doesn't make any sense. Doesn't make any sense at all. Anyway, guys, I hope you did enjoy the video. Sorry, just a short one for this morning. Hope you did enjoy, and I'll see you in the next one.